Welcome everybody to the City Brew Tours Beer Club CBTBC. My name is Jonathan. I'm your host once again this month, and you know who I am. We are here for another beautiful city with a beautiful box of beers, but I am not alone this month. I do have a new co-host because we're a new city, get some new friends. So I got my buddy Derrin. Derrin, come on over here and say hello to the beautiful people.
Hello, everyone.
There you
Hey,
go. Love
Jonathan, how
it.
are you?
I am doing wonderful. How are you doing on this beautiful Tuesday? I almost forgot what day it was. We only do
Yeah.
this on Tuesdays. So,
Yes.
how are you doing? How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great today.
Perfect. Good night. It's been nice in this region. I know I'm in New York. What area in the world are you gracing your presence from, Darren?
I am in central Jersey, closer to
So
the Jersey Shore.
nice. All right. So similar weather. It's been a little chilly, kind of getting some of those fall vibes, but not quite there yet, but
The
almost.
1 week you could sleep with your windows
Yeah, there you go. They're perfect
open.
before it gets too cold.
Yeah.
Well, with the idea of nice weather, windows open, I think we should start drinking before we even go any further. So we are going to
Yeah.
start cracking open a beer. We're actually going to start with the human robot, the Festbier. I just love this can. Like it's just, you've got the checkered, you got the hound, you've got it's just so much. So we're just gonna crack this right open. Let's see. I
All right.
know, I know a lot of people might get a little upset by Jonathan. Why are we having an Oktoberfest in the middle of September? But I like to get ahead of the game. But also Oktoberfest starts in September nowadays, so I feel like it's okay. It's all right. Plus, this is a fest beer, so it doesn't have to be exactly. All right, beautiful in color. I love that clarity.
I got a lot ahead here, but I'm
That's
excited
all
about
right.
the human robots. I keep hearing really great things about them, but I haven't had the occasion to the chance to visit yet.
I've they
So
uh they love coming to New York, bringing collaborating with a lot of the breweries here. So I've had their beer a few different times. This one looks like it's going to meet all the marks. So
yeah,
cheers. There you go.
cheers to
Cheers,
you.
everybody. Oh, that's what you want. Nice, light, crisp, little bit of that slight bite on the finish, as
Yeah.
opposed to like a Marzen. But this is what you want. You got that crispness, that freshness. I do agree with RJ in the chat as well. That as long as we're not having Christmas beers, Oktoberfest beers are okay this time. I will say I've been seeing more pumpkin beers already hitting the market. Um, I feel like it's a little too. I've drank them. Don't get me wrong. I've already started drinking them, but I feel like September, October, we can get all of our Oktoberfest beers in, and this is what I want. It's perfect. Now, Darren, I have to ask you now, as because the people listening, watching, all here, they don't know who you are.
Sure.
I know you, but um, I do want to know like. Do you, when you want like a fest beer or a Marzen, do you just go to a brewery and be like, or do you just ask for an Oktoberfest style beer, or do you go specifically for one of those two styles?
I think probably I would say Marzen, although they're pretty similar, right? But I would probably, if I'm going for that kind of beer, I was probably going to want something a little bit more malty,
Okay.
um, and so that's probably what I would lean towards.
Nice. Because I know that you don't see as many Marzens because again, they are traditionally brewed in March. So, it's a little bit of a lagering process there.
Yeah,
I know a lot of the breweries, especially here in the Northeast and other places, will lean heavy into like the fest beer because it's a little bit less temperamental. Um,
Yeah.
but I always love it when people are just like, I want an Oktoberfest. I'm like, but which one? They're like,
Yeah.
just an
Yeah.
Oktoberfest beer. I'm like, but we got two options. Uh, but I've even been seeing it that a lot of breweries have even been like, because usually it's going to be a Festbier, it might be a Marzen, but they just now have given up and they just market their beers as Oktoberfest style beers.
Oktoberfest or Marzen style.
Yeah, Marzen style Oktoberfest. They're just like, we're not even trying. We know what the people want. But they may not know what they want, but we know. Which is always kind of, I think, the fun of it. Um, for those that don't know, though, Derrin is part of City Brew Tours. Derrin, where I know you lead tours. Where tell the people where you lead tours at.
Sure. So I lead tours at the Jersey Shore in Central Jersey, Monmouth County area, and I also run the Philadelphia um, location for City Brew Tours. We have
Right.
other guys that run the tours there. I've run a couple tours there, but mostly I leave it to the guys that live in town.
That know the back roads and kind of how to
Yeah,
get everywhere and
know how to
kind of
park more than anything.
well, right, right. Yeah. No, that's cool. And that's why, it's kind of fun when we were developing like this box where like it's gonna be like Philly area. And as I was doing research, I didn't even like geography. I know geography, but also it's like it gets a little weird in the Northeast. It gets weird everywhere, but it's like the blend of where breweries on that South Jersey, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania line, there's like breweries like jumping back and forth. Like you could basically go do a whole crawl and be in both states, being like back and forth the whole time. So do you feel like there's like a lot of breweries are further apart more on the Jersey side than on the Pennsylvania side?
Um, sort of. If you're talking about like just outside Philadelphia, sort of like you're in New York. You go into areas of Jersey, it's almost like an extension of New
Yeah.
York, right? So there's areas in Jersey that are like that to Philadelphia, right? You're kind of there. It's just a little sprawl. Not that we have much sprawl here, but it's so some of the breweries in Philly, in the Philly tour, we go to Jersey. Where I am, it's a little more spread out in Central Jersey. Things just in general are a little more spread out. We're kind of like halfway equidistant to Philly and New York City from where I am right now. So it's definitely kind of an hour 15 to each of those. So it's definitely suburbs area.
So not walkable. Not
No,
quite.
no,
No, no,
I
no. Yeah.
I could do a two brewery walking tour,
There you
but
go.
that's about it.
And by that point, everyone's like, "Yeah, we're done. We're
Yeah,
we're
you're
we're done at
tired by
that
the
point."
time you
Yeah,
got there. It's a
yeah.
little bit of a stretch, but
Do you notice that because coming from more urban places and we've had breweries from all over, um, people don't really think of like South Jersey or even people hear about Philadelphia and the beer scene. And obviously we know Philadelphia for like history because they have like
yeah.
pretty much all the first, let's be honest. Philadelphia has done the first, it's a home of the presidents and they've had like the first college, the first this, the first that. Like it's been around for a while. They've gotten their share first. Uh, and even some of the oldest breweries. But would you say that has influenced a lot of like the Jersey brewing scene as well? Because it is so close, that line right there of having that history of, you've got Yingling and you've got Hershey and you've got all these places. Have you been seeing kind of that influx kind of bleeding over just a little bit across that border?
Um, Definitely in the like I said, some of the breweries in the Philly tour do cross the river and go into Jersey. So it is, even though it is very much like a suburb kind of area, it's like pretty dense with breweries in that area. Um, so there's definitely bleed over, I think, of everything, right? Just the city's influence stretches beyond its borders. It's like any city, right? So there is even from places that are not quite rural, but they still are pretty heavily influenced by Philadelphia. Um, just because they're close enough that people travel to Philadelphia, they work in Philadelphia, so they're looking for those same type of things when they go home as they have when they're in the big city.
Nice. Well, and I think it's also like also important to note that having kind of those, you want those things that like I have that in the city, I want to have this at home, and obviously that's gonna bring people out because you just like here in other places as well. When you're a little bit further from the city, you get a little more space for a little more affordable cost, so you can get a little bit better experience and create that environment. Whether it is with a large outdoor space or a larger brewing facility. But I do want to give a shout out to Human Robot, who is over, they're right in the city. But they've only been around since 2020, which for myself, because I've been drinking their beer right around that time and a little bit after, I was like, oh yeah, they've been Human Robot. They've been around for a long time. Uh, They've only been around for like 4 years or so, but they are just knocking it out of the park. So I've had a lot of their lagers. I think I've had their Pilsner. And they do the lagers, they do Pilsners, but they're also like having fun with those fruited sours and basically just make good beer, have good
Yeah,
beer, have good ingredients. And making sure that, they have that right glassware, make sure it's presented well, served well. And they're just wanting people to get their beer. Which I was talking with them earlier this week as well, and they haven't been slowing down the past year. They're doing private events, they're doing specialty events. They are doing an Oktoberfest event this month. So like they're just like keep people coming in, keep this beer going out. And I don't really see them slowing down. Uh I've seen them, here in the city. I know they do little distribution more locally, but they're all about not just getting beer local, but also collaborating with other breweries to really like just make good beer. That's all it is. And I think
yeah,
that's, here at City Brew Tours, we want to get people good beer. And I think we've succeeded with this box as well because we've have some of those classics. We do have you've got your Trogs, we've got your Victory, your Forest and Main, which I do want to just shout out for anyone as well. You will notice that on the documents and the website, the Forest and Main will be different. We had a mix up with our distributor. So if you're like, this does not look like an American lager, it is the field lager in your box. That's okay. It is a little bit different. Still a nice light lager, easy to drink. But if anyone needs tasting notes or anything, just leave us comments, send us a message. We'll get that sorted out for you guys as well. So we do apologize for that mix up. But it's just nice beer. And Force and Main's also been around for a little while. Then we also have obviously we've got Tired Hands and we've got our buddies over at Weyerbacher. So we've got what amazing beers from breweries that are very, very young to very, very old, which I think is kind of the fun thing about that region of Pennsylvania, Jersey, is that you have some of the old guys, but then you also have these brand new breweries within just the past couple years, all working together, just trying to make good beer. But with that, I'm going to take a sip for dramatic pause. But Derrin, what's been kind of what trend have you been seeing in that region with breweries and beer styles? And have you been seeing a specific trend? Because I know obviously nationwide breweries are opening and closing it seems like almost every day at this point. But what's kind of been the trend you've been seeing of like whether it's brew styles or facilities or kind of business models?
Yeah, well, Philly is certainly a pretty robust beer market. From just the city and the immediate area around it, there's like about 100 breweries right now. So that's quite a few in this pretty small area. So there's plenty of choices. There's lots of really good stuff out there. Um, I've noticed as far as style wise, I think kind of the trend everywhere seems to be leaning more towards like lagers and more drinkable, like easily drinkable stuff. There was like I don't know if the um, everyone people got worn out on the on too many hops, or if it's just more people are looking to do a little more variety. But definitely more loggers than you maybe saw even a few years ago,
Yeah.
which is great because I think it gives a lot more choices to people, and it gives an entry point into craft beer to people that maybe are like don't really want to, you know, drink pastry stouts and huge IPAs. So I think it's really great that breweries are recognizing that that you can attract more. You can attract a lot more people with that variety. I think a lot of in the past it was like who could just make the hoppiest IPA, and that was great for a while. But yeah, so I think definitely the trend in that in the Philly area and where I've seen it in a lot of other places that I've been to, that seems to be kind of how things are going. Um,
No,
and I'm all
I
for
yeah, I 100% agree because when I started drinking a while ago, we'll just say that. And it was the during the hop craze. And it
yeah,
was like, let's get as many hops as we can get in there. Let's like go. And I was in because I grew up in Indiana in the Midwest, and the only craft beer available at that time was either Sam Adams or Flat Tire. Like that was it. And that was when they were still craft. So again, it's a
yeah,
while ago. But it was like, oh, I want something more. Like I want something a little bit bolder, more flavor. I don't want to drink, all the macros. And I went into, I think it was at the time it was Flying Dog was just hitting the market. And so all their double, triple IPAs,
yeah,
and so I feel you like we've just went too far and we've drank too many of them. I still love a good IPA, and I'm not gonna bash IPAs. Like love a good hazy, love a good West Coast. I'll drink a Midwest IPA even though it's not a real style. That's a conversation for another time.
yeah,
But I see that trend as well as like a lot of breweries are really getting into that lager game, trying to get, more drinkable, approachable beers for people that maybe either drank too many bold flavors or like I want to step back, but also to get new people interested into the market. And I've been seeing this personally as well that, you know, doing whether it's doing tours or doing the podcast or bartending, like I see kind of some of those older generations also coming around, and they're just like, I just found out about craft beer like 2 years ago. And I'm
yeah,
like, they're like, I've been drinking, what I could get, in the grocery store for the past 50 years, but I just discovered this. And they're like, I didn't know it could taste good. And I'm like, yeah, it can. So I think that's kind of fun. And I think that's also what kind of the draw of kind of that Pennsylvania, the Philly area is because it has that deep history as well of kind of with the founding fathers. You got Hershey right there.
yeah,
So you have to have some chocolate beers. You can still have those pastry stouts. And I've been seeing those kind of make their way back a little bit. But I think it's what you said of having that diversity
yeah,
of you're gonna have those lagers, you're gonna have the IP. Everyone's gonna have like not just 12 IPAs on draft. They're going to have maybe three IPAs, but then they're also going to have all that kind of different beers on there as well. And
Yeah,
that's
I'm
what we
here
kind
for
of,
all of it, right?
oh,
Yeah, but it is just nice to see more breweries having more diverse, more variety in style, which is I think
yeah.
is
Oh no, I'm here for every style.
great.
You put it in front of me, I will drink it. The only style that I'm not the biggest fan of, and I know everyone on the podcast has heard this, red ales. It's a personal thing. I'm not bashing it. We do get red ales in the box. It's okay. I will still drink it. But you put a beer in front of me. I'm gonna drink it. But that's also kind of our thought here with our boxes for all of our subscribers and everyone is like, let's get that diversity. Let's not just send out nothing but IPAs, but let's get some sours, some Belgians, some Oktoberfest in September. Uh, which again, I fully support. But I'm getting close to the end of this beer. What are you thinking of this Oktoberfest so far, Darren, as opposed to like other fest beers, fest styles as well?
I think it's really nice. It's got a lot of flavor, but it's still within like the kind of bounds of the style. It's pretty malty, but it's only a tiny bit of hoppiness, which is appropriate, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, nice little malt, little like toast or cracker,
Yeah.
um, which is which is really delicious. I'm
It's
really
yeah,
enjoying
no,
this right
it's there's no other word. It's just like this is just a good beer. Like
now.
it's just really good. Yeah,
Yeah,
and like you don't get that like strong hoppiness, but you're getting just I'm getting just enough of that bite on that finish that I want with a
yeah,
fest where it's like half hop, half like raw grain bitterness of just like it's just there. It's like just that crispness. The I've had Oktoberfest and Fest beers and other ones that I've used this description before. However, people look at me weird when I say this. This one's on the cusp of it, is that a lot of Fest beers or autumn beers, I'll say, taste like drinking a leaf pile. And but in all the good ways. Where like you get like that grassiness, you get the freshness,
earthy, yeah,
you get that earthy, the dewy, and then not that as a child I ate leaves, but if you ever accidentally are leaf blowing and a leaf you munch on one, you get kind of that it has a bitterness to like a maple leaf.
yeah.
And I've tried to explain this to people and people just look at me really weird. But this is like on that cusp of that like
It's just
leaf pile
a touch,
ish. Yeah, just a
yeah,
touch of a leaf pile.
yeah,
Which is a
and that's
weird descriptor.
yeah, yeah, because I don't necessarily love that when it's strong, but there's just that tiny bit, which is also appropriate for this style, that tiny bit of like earthiness at the end. That's just um, the grainy finish there.
Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
it's
it's really good. I'm really enjoying this.
yeah, no, I wish I had more. But
Almost finished with it
alas,
already.
I only have one can of this right now. But we do have another beer, which we've been holding out. We've mentioned our friends. I know they're ready to hear, but Blake, I'm gonna bring Blake on from Weyerbacher because not only do we have a fest beer, we're hitting that Belgian wit. So we got a Belgian wit from Weyerbacher with that brewed with spices. Uh, so Blake's gonna be coming on here. We're gonna talk about this beer. We're gonna crack it open. There he is. Hey, Blake.
Hey,
How's it going?
doing good.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on. Uh, as we're pouring this, is there anything you want to tell us about this Weyerbacher wit?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Excited to be here with this opportunity. But yeah, you picked a great one for the box. It's a wonderful, easygoing beer. The wit beer style is a nice Belgian character. The other thing with the wit beer, you should get a ton of flavor and aroma in there, and you should be able to um, discover all that goes into that.
Oh yeah. No, it's right there. With wits, I think a lot of people, because we get so used to so many, like, whether it's a Hefeweizen or an unfiltered wit or anything of those natures, that this one still has a little bit of a cloudiness to it, but it's still fairly crisp.
Yeah.
Definitely has those aromas. You get that spice. You get that nice, a little bit of the little lacing in there, but not too much. And overall, it's just light and crisp. You get that nice citrusy. It's a delicious beer. It's delicious. Uh, Not that I would say
Yeah,
anything.
awesome for the warm weather, but we're tailing off here, seasonally for it, but it drinks wonderfully, with all that flavor and everything that's a part of it. So
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of times with like Belgian wits specifically, people automatically think of, oh, it's only just a warm weather beer because it's so light, it's crisp, but you get a little bit of that body. I like them in the fall. I like them in the winter. I like them all year. Because you get like those spices, and so it kind of works, kind of that all year round kind of thing as well. Which I think is great. But that's enough about what I think about this beer. Blake, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Weyerbacher. You know, what's your beer story? How did you get into this? And then kind of what's been Weyerbacher's journey as well.
yeah, absolutely. I've been with Weyerbacher now, just over 5 years. Started out cleaning kegs, on our production line, and currently I serve as our head brewer and work in our cellar as well. So I've kind of taken this craft beer journey, as my life has gone. Started out home brewing, in the early to mid 2000s, and decided that's where I wanted to take my life and the direction I wanted to go. So here we are today, in a nutshell. Certainly a lot of sweat and a little of everything along the way, but yeah, I've been with Weyerbacher for this period of time and have had the chance to really grow with the company. We've seen each aspect of time here, ups, downs, going through COVID, all of that. And now with a chance to kind of be overseeing all of our brewing and that side of our operations, is my passion, and I'm enjoying it.
And so with like Weyerbacher, and I know there's been a lot of iterations of Weyerbacher over the years. Are there any specific styles that you guys are focusing on right now? Obviously, I know you guys do a lot of Belgian styles. But is it all Belgians, or are you guys kind of trying to hit that full variety that we were talking about as well?
Yeah, I mean, Weyerbacher started in 1995, so especially for Pennsylvania, specifically the Lehigh Valley area, considered one of the OGs of our local craft beer movement. Um, we moved to our current location in 2001, where our brewery is at today in Easton. And we kind of got our start, and our name has come from big, bold Belgian style beers, English style beers, with our Merry Monks Belgian triple, our Blithering Idiot American style barley wine, our Sunday morning stout. A few of these big, bold beers, but the beauty of it, and as you guys were talking about before, and I also love seeing this, is just the diversity that breweries are continuing to put out and cater to the consumer. You kind of these days have to have a little bit of everything to really make it. And I've noticed that change over the years, but we have a certain amount of product in distribution, but where the heart of it, and I think where the heart of a lot of breweries lie that maybe don't do as much distributing too, is that's where the city brew tours comes in. Is you can experience so much at a tap room brewery,
Yeah.
and at these locations. So yeah, we do a little of everything. We have some tasty IPAs, from our double Simcoe, which is a 9% ABV, super delicious, malty, decent amount of hop bitterness. Then we have our Last Chance IPA, which is a 6.5%, more of a, I guess you'd push it more towards the juicier side as compared to a hop bitter side, showcasing hops in that manner. And then we have a ton of small batch projects as well. You talked about the wit. We did a nice blackberry raspberry fruited version of this beer in the summertime and came out extremely well. Really complemented that wit beer base with a nice tart berry notes as well. So, we have that kind of fun too. But we just filled some barrels with some of our barrel aged beer. Our Sunday morning stout, like I said, is a perennial favorite. That's an Imperial American stout base. We take that base and we use local ground coffee and we age it in bourbon barrels. So that typically comes out around roughly Thanksgiving time or theirs after. The other one that we're really well known for, we call Insanity, and that is our Blithering Idiot aged in bourbon barrels. So it comes out with that barrel character. Super nice, tasty, keeps you warm in the cold weather months. And we feature these beers in February at our big Super Barrel weekend event that we hold at the brewery. So I guess a little bit of a story for you there.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. What is the barrel aged blithering idiot? What's the percentage on that?
Yeah, so typically, the beer itself is in the 11% range. So it winds up falling somewhere 11, 12. We've even had it up to 13% at
Okay.
times. So, certainly one that you want to savor and enjoy. You're certainly not having a case race or anything with this beer. It's definitely a nice one, and also a beer that you can age. There are
Right.
a lot of folks that like to cellar their beers over a year, 2 years, or more,
Yep.
depending on your personal preference. So that's another nice feature of some of our barrel aged beers is that folks can really have fun that way too.
Yeah. No, and I think that's kind of the fun of a lot of breweries that do offer barrel age. And, they're not a beer that you're not shotgunning these beers. Like, I hope not. I mean, maybe you are, but
Some
I
people
hope
might,
not.
I don't know.
Some people might. But you want to savor them, you want to enjoy the flavors. And especially if it's coming in like a 750 bottle, like you might not want to drink the whole thing by yourself in one sitting. So, let it cellar until you can meet up with friends in like a year or so. And kind of, going back and forth. So the fact that a lot of these can cellar, can age, can develop flavor, I think is kind of the beauty of it. Because with like, we were talking about like the IPA craze a little while ago, and like that's one of the downsides with a lot of like IPAs is you got to drink them fresh. Like not that I haven't had a year old IPA. I'm not saying I have because I don't want to lose respect off the bat. I'm not saying that I haven't either. But at the same time, sure, you could drink them, but it's not going to be the same. It's not developing character like your barley wines and stuff. Which, I think it's also cool that you guys are using the bases of like the wit. It's great beer. It's a good base, but I could see how adding that fruit in there, kind of having fun with it, and kind of developing what you do have. Like, oh, we're already making the wet. Let's add some fruit in there. Which I think is kind of the beauty. And I see this a lot of times from brewers that have that homebrew background of, hey, let's try this. Hey, what if we do this? What if we do that? And not that other brewers don't do it, but as a home brewer myself, I see that a lot of times of like, hey, what happens if I throw this fruit in there? What's the worst that could happen? Um, I mean, there's a lot of worse things that could happen. It could be a bad beer,
Yeah,
but that's
that's
like
the
the fun of it,
creativity. Yeah.
right? Yeah. That's the fun. With doing especially a lot of like Belgian styles, do you find that that's, you do the IPAs, you do everything, but do you find that working with that yeast is a little more temperamental, or is it just another day in the office?
Yeah, for us, I mean, we've had some good track record and good years of experience with the yeast we've been using. We use an pretty common American ale yeast for our beers like Blithering Idiot, and then an Abbey strain for our Belgian styles like our Merry Monks, our tiny Imperial Belgian style stout, and some of those. Wit beer, has kind of its own unique wit beer yeast that we work with. So, um, for us, as far as the routine and working with the yeast, we're pretty comfortable with that on a daily basis. We work with a variety of use, especially when we get into some of our smaller batch items. But we also, we can propagate and kind of reuse and create next generations of yeast to pitch into the next beers too. We have that process and technology worked out well over the years too. So, we find cost savings from that when we get a chance to do that and kind of carry that forward with being able to reuse and repitch yeast. But yeah, I mean, that's also part of the fun of it though, is experimenting. We have a few standard yeast, but then when we get to experiment with some of the other styles and you get the real feel for what some of these other yeast contribute to the beers, you were enjoying a nice human robot Festbier there. That's a nice German lager yeast that they're using in there, and those characters come through in that specific style. Whereas the wit, you get a lot of that phenolic character and some of those other esters that are coming from that yeast. And that's what that's designed to meet that style, and it's what makes that style. So that's another piece that I really love about brewing is just how all the ingredients come together, how they can shine. And as a brewer, that's what your goal is to, whether you're making something to style or trying to put a unique twist on it, you're trying to demonstrate something in particular with the beer you're brewing and putting out there for folks to enjoy. So you try to tell that story with the ingredients and how it presents. And as well as, hey, here's a little bit about this beer when you put a label on a can or a bottle too. So
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that's kind of what I love about brewing and beer in general is that you have, I mean, you can be as simple as you want with the ingredients. You can get it down to the four ingredients. Obviously you can add other things and you can go complete opposite direction and add 35 ingredients. But that's kind of the fun is that, you are kind of telling that story and allowing each ingredient to kind of shine in its own way. But there's also that variety within, oh, what if I add the hops in 10 minutes later this time than I did last time? And that's going to completely change the beer. Or what if I add them in 10 minutes early and kind of see.
yeah.
And so that's I agree with you that that's the fun of it. And, it is as I talk to people about brewing and like about beer, whether it's on tours or stuff, and there's like brewers are kind of like mad scientists. I'm like, yeah, yeah, kind of, in many ways of kind of just, it's an experiment of trying, seeing what works, but also knowing the ingredients so well of if I use this type of barley, this type of hops in these, like it's gonna work. And you just like know it so well and know these ingredients that you're gonna create, what flavors you're gonna come out of. And then you do have some wild cards where the yeast decides to do its own thing, and maybe you didn't expect that, but that
Yep.
happens. And like I always find that people, especially with Belgian styles, the yeast can be, because it has very specific flavors, not so much in a wit, but like a tripel or a quad, that it has a lot of those stone fruit, and at times even those fig or molasses flavors. Do you find that people are, when they come to Weyerbacher, they're like, yeah, no, like we don't really care. Like we're just gonna enjoy the beers. Or do you still find that you have to kind of convince people, like, this is, you're gonna have a unique flavor with this of like, don't be turned off. There's not actually stone fruit in here. Do you find that you still have to do that, or are people just like, nah, I don't care?
Yeah, I mean, there's the consumer now and the craft beer folks that are really into pursuing, these beverages tend to be more educated now. Even then a handful of years ago, you're getting younger generations getting into craft beer earlier now, which I think is cool. And there's definitely a lot more education in that way, but still part of our job and part of what we enjoy doing is teaching and coaching. And so you get a little bit of everything. You get some folks that are really just pretty straightforward and other folks that maybe are just learning about craft beer. Maybe they kind of were at a different end of the spectrum of the craft beer boom here and now just getting into it. Get a mix of everything. But for me, and that's I enjoy getting out and getting a chance to talk to our customers, and if I get a chance to attend a beer fest and just chit chat on it, because I think that's what excited me a lot about. Somebody talked to me about that when I was ordering a beer or learning about a beer, and I try to pass that forward, and think as a tap room, as a brewery, that education is still a key piece of it. Whether you're putting together a flight for somebody or, hey, oh, we only know Weyerbacher as a big, bold beer brewing company, but you come in and, hey, here we have a light lager, a wit, very approachable, low ABV beers that are real highly drinkable and super refreshing. So it's that mix and that education that all is still a part of it. And I think it goes for everybody, you're trying to convey a message and of who you are and what your brews are all about. So the actual talking behind a beer and talking to folks about what they're ordering goes a long way.
Yeah, and I think that's also goes back to, beer as a communal beverage anyway, of, yes, the alcohol helps. It helps loosen people up, makes people a little more talkable, conversational. But providing like, if you're having a meal of like a steak dinner, you're not just be like, oh yeah, no, it's just beef and potatoes. Like, like, you know, what kind of steak is it? What's the cut? What's, how is it cooked? Is it, and like, did you do it on charcoal? You're gonna ask these questions. Some people don't. Some people are just like, give
Yeah.
it to me, I'm ready. But other people are like, so how was it prepared and all? And I feel like, again, I might be a little partial, but I feel like with beer it should be the same way. Just have that conversation. And anytime I'm at a brewery and like the brewer or one of the owners can come out and I can chat with them, that's always I always find that enjoyable because then I can be like, what what are you excited about? Like on this tap list, what's your favorite? What are you most proud of? Because I can have what I like and that's great. But then what are you excited about? What are you kind of like brewing that you are like, this one, really proud of this one right here. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try that one. So I think that really helps and pushes us out of our boundaries, but also it just gets good beer. It's just, and obviously what you like and what I like might be different, and that's okay. But I think that's also, I agree with you, like getting that conversation, creating that environment is very important, and just providing that education as well.
Yeah.
Because if you look up Weyerbacher, I grew up in a very, like, in the Midwest, it was a lot of German immigrants. So like as soon as I saw Weyerbacher, I was like, yeah, that's Weyerbacher. Like there's Weyerbacher streets, Heidelbach, all these
Hmm.
like very German streets. And then, but it's like, all right, yeah, there's, if you look it up, it's like, oh yeah, it's Belgian styles, triples and stuff. But then, and you think that's gonna be really heavy and like I've enjoyed the Merry Monks. It's fantastic. And you're like, oh, it's gonna be bold, but this wit is super light, crushable, I would say. The kids aren't saying that anymore, I found out, but I'm still trying to bring it back. Um, but it's very much like it's very light, easy to drink, which if you were just to think of Weyerbacher as only, you know, Belgian quads, triples, you might not think of this beer.
Yeah.
But that's where, like, as you said, like, yeah, no, you do light, nice beers as well.
Yeah, and when you say, hey, is there a beer you're really excited about, heading into the spring and summer, this was one of the beers that I was super pumped about just because of you get a ton of flavor out of this, and you get a ton of, from aroma to flavor to everything. It just all comes through in this beer, and you're getting a chance to experience that.
And have you guys thought about either Weyerbacher, or I haven't seen this anywhere else either, but like if brewers put their, like, even if it's like an asterisk or something of like a brewer's recommendation on their menus. I haven't personally seen that. I only experienced that when I talked to the brewers. Have you guys thought about that, or like, just try to get, like, or staff pick, like, because you see that at
Yeah,
like
yeah.
tap rooms, you see that, but like this is like the brewer's pick. This is what I like.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And, I've seen that in different formats for different, chef's choice or what
Yeah.
have you. And I think I've seen some breweries do that. But yeah, I mean, when you get that recommendation from a brewer or a staff, I think that is a guidepost for some folks maybe that don't know exactly what they want to go with. That, oh, this might be a good one to try, or maybe we'll start here. Maybe it starts a conversation with a bartender about that beer or the brewery. So yeah, there are things that can be incorporated from a brewery and the taproom standpoint to really accentuate and continue to make that drinking experience even more positive. So I like where you're going with that.
Yeah. And because when I bartend as well, like people always ask me, like, what's your favorite beer? I'm like, no, 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 we're not playing that game because like that's different. Because like they're like, what's the best beer you have right now? I mean, that's a very subjective term, but
Yeah,
if it's like, what's your favorite, or what's the beer you're most excited about? I'm like, all right, like I can play with that. I can work with that. Um, you know, or if it's like, if someone asks that, my follow up will be, "What's your favorite style?" Because if you're like, "What's your best beer right now?" I'm like, it might be a smoked lager, but if you don't know what a smoked Helles or a Rausch beer is, we're gonna have very different opinions about
yeah,
best beer. But yeah, no, I think especially going into a brewery versus like a tap room with like kind of that recommendation does go a long way. Just because also you're in it, like you're making these beers, and even if it's like one, they're just like it all came together. It's a very simple beer, but it just all came together. That's the one I want to try. That's the one.
yeah,
Which, and I feel
absolutely.
like with this wit, it's exactly what it should be. Light, crisp. As it starts to warm up, you get a little bit of that honey, which is really nice. But you get all those spices in there. Um, I do have to ask, can you tell us what spices are in it? Or is that
Oh
a
yeah,
secret?
sure. Yeah, we could give you a lowdown on that. Traditionally for this style too, there are some common ones that are typically used. You should pick up, kind of the coriander seed. We use an orange peel, grains of paradise, and then star anise is another one that typically you'll find
Right.
in this style. So, we meld those together in a certain ratio, I guess, if you will, how we do it. Um, so you get kind of that perfumey, herbal, flowery kind of character out of these coming through, and I like how the citrus, that orange peel. comes across with a little of that sweetness that you get on the back end as well. But we use a wheat malt in addition to our regular barley malt as well. So that gives you some of that smoother mouth feel and what you're picking up in there as well. So that all of that kind of comes together, at 4.6% ABV and gives it just a nice, easy drinking, laid back attitude.
No, 100%. Like this, even though we're getting, we're starting to get to that last portion of the year, but having this on the beach, I feel like this would be like the perfect beach beer.
Yeah.
Or if you don't want to go to the beach, like the perfect beer to have on on the ferry or something. If you're going in between the cities, something just like nice, light, like,
Yeah,
but I definitely want to be near the water enjoying this beer.
absolutely.
Yeah, no, yeah, and with like, Weyerbacher's been around for a while, 90s. That for most breweries, that's a long time.
Oh yeah.
Currently. And I know there's been like a few iterations and kind of and styles, but where do you guys kind of see currently where Weyerbacher is like moving forward? Kind of what do you see the future coming ahead for you guys?
Yeah, for us, I mean, these last couple of years, now that we've kind of been moving forward under new ownership, we've been in a positive, healthy direction and feeling good. We've reopened a ton of our distribution channels. We're in 8 states now again, here in the Northeast and heading down south, and we're planning to open into a few more over the next year and then a couple more the year after that. So we're trying to grow back into some of these markets that we kind of moved out of, for lack of a better term, at one point or another. And then for us too, we've been able to kind of grow our footprint within the Lehigh Valley. We opened a new tap room within the last couple of months in Emmaus, Pennsylvania, which is a few miles down the road on the other side of the Lehigh Valley. So we were able to kind of expand our broaden our horizon, if you will, within the Lehigh Valley. And I think what you're probably seeing with a lot of folks too, and where we're at is, you really want to. We've had a lot of focus on our core market, and in and around our area. Those are your best customers, the people that love you, the people that support you. And if COVID showed us, one thing, especially for the beverage and restaurant industry, is that there is a lot to be said about the local community and supporting local businesses and not only are the breweries I see kind of continuing to invest locally, whether you're using locally grown hops or malt or other artisans products in your brews or at your brewery, coffees, things like that. Um, all these things, this local concept, which I feel was so strong and what our country and foundation of civilization was really built on, you know, uh, I see that trend continuing and, we do as much as we can to continue to support our local community. And we're blessed in the Lehigh Valley with a couple dozen amazing breweries, cideries, meaderies, a ton of other wineries, in and around our area and beyond that into the Poconos. And as you head south towards Philadelphia and Bucks County and all the surrounding counties, in Pennsylvania as a whole is an amazing beer state. So,
Yeah.
you could run a tour just in the Lehigh Valley for sure. But there's so much out there, and that's the beauty of it all. And I really feel like we are at an amazing time right now. So as we continue to push forward, and opening back up into some of these other markets again, is really just being able to forge ahead and grow some of these brands like our wit beer. That's always been a seasonal beer for us that we've been able to now reestablish, coming out of these last couple of years and post COVID as well. And so we have a couple different brews that we're continuing to work on in that regard that would be not necessarily our main core of big, bold Belgian beers, but our other group of core beers, that our Last Chance IPA, our Double Simcoe IPA. Right now, what was it, Wednesday? Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we release our Imperial Pumpkin Ale, which is a
Okay.
beer that we're known for in our area and beyond in our distribution channels. 8% ABV, super, super, medium to full-bodied beer with your classic pumpkin spices, brewed with some pumpkin in there as well. So, continuing to grow those brands as well as, we're focusing on the lighter beers. We created within this last year our Lehigh Valley Light Lager, a beer that we brewed for the people of the Lehigh Valley, to really kind of be able to focus in that area with a super crisp, easy drinking, clean, light beer. So, try to have something for everybody, but we're also trying to grow these key pieces. We also work in a partnership with Colony Meadery. They produce their mead at our location at Weyerbacher. So we serve their meads on tap at our brewery, and we're also featured as beer at their tap room in downtown Bethlehem. So again, another way we've been able to kind of increase our footprint in our local area, but also have a local partnership with another business, and kind of use those synergies to help both of us grow and work. They have a couple ciders they've developed that we've been able to work with, and a couple of coolers, if you will, honey wine coolers that they've come out with that we've been able to offer as well. So some really cool things that, being able to utilize and kind of cross pollinate, if you will, amongst us, just having those partnerships. And, I feel too, everyone in our area and beyond, the craft beer community in general can be pretty collaborative, as tough as the market is and can be. That does create, I think, some level of competition amongst yourselves, if you will, which that's business, that's life. But in general, we all tend to be there to help each other out when we're able to do collaborative efforts when we're able to. So that piece of it was another part of what excited me about, not just enjoying craft beer, but actually becoming a brewer of craft beer, was that community aspect of craft brewing. So, it's definitely a different business climate out there now. But I feel like the ones that really get it, the true heroes of the craft beer community, the people that are out there forging these relationships and partnerships and collaborations, continue to serve the best message of what this is all about, and that spirit of community. So
Nice. Yeah, no, I like that's the one thing I always see is that you see that collaboration, you see, and as we were talking about earlier, you know, people are really into those lighter beers and like building that, but also the fact that you guys are kind of coming back, you know, opening some markets that business is business, right? So like you have to eventually close some stuff to build up. And then now that you guys are coming back into those markets and in some ways rebranding of like, we're not just big Belgian beers. We've got these other things.
yeah,
And I think that's awesome. I think that's great. And I think I'm I love it when other breweries, when you have cideries or meaderies that you can feature or wineries. And because even though I love beer, not everyone is a beer drinker. And usually you're going to a brewery for the beer, but you might have someone with you that either can't have beer or they're just like, I like something, a little bit different. So I think that's awesome that you're able to work with those partnerships and kind of keep that all moving. And I know you guys are in 8 different states right now. How far south are you guys?
yeah. So we get down into South Carolina currently, but we're looking to eventually get Florida was always a pretty great state to us. So we're looking to get ourselves back down that way. So goal being, to eventually be back, at one point we were a regional brewery, if you will. So, our goal is to get back to being able to cover the seaboard there and down up into the Northeast and New England states completely. And then we're in Ohio, and so we'd like to get some more territories in and around there, and work our way around to some of these awesome markets that were always so supportive of us. And yeah, to your point too, I feel, lighter, lower ABV, enjoyable beverages are certainly trending, and even more so, there, like you just said, there's so many folks that maybe can't enjoy, a full flavored, full alcohol beer or beverage for one reason or another. And so you're seeing the lower ABVs, even the ultra light beers, and NA beers, non-alcoholic varieties of beverages making a big push. So a lot of that, comes back to us as, hey, this is something we need to get into or continue to work to develop. So we've been working on some areas like that with a lower AB, even lower ABV, 2.5% ABV beer. And there are a number of breweries in our area that have also now put out some NA offerings. So that's continuing to grow, and we certainly as a brewing community are working to respond to that, because yeah, that it should be a place for everybody to come enjoy something, one way or the other, and it doesn't not have to be a soft drink or a soda or a juice box necessarily, other than for the kids. But um, hop waters are certainly something I've
Yeah.
seen more of now too. They can be tasty in their own right. I've enjoyed a few of those, and there's some good ones out there. So yeah, the opportunities in those areas are certainly continuing to grow. And for those that are able to, because it's not always within every brewery's realm to be able to capabilities to be able to do some of these things.
Yeah.
But for us it is, and we're certainly seeing that, and we're looking to those avenues for the future as well. So
Nice. Yeah, no, and I've noticed a lot of breweries that have, and we've had them on the podcast of like focusing in on hard seltzers or other avenues, because sometimes you especially if we've learned anything over the past 10 years, we need to be able to adapt and kind of work with things. So that's, and I mean, if you want diversity, I would say as far as variety in beers, like Pennsylvania does have the second most breweries in the country. So like you should be able to find something for everyone. I would
oh
hope.
yeah.
Uh, you know, you guys have, is it 550 is the last number I saw around there? I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
somewhere
it's
around there,
around there.
right? Around there. Because I know New York, we're just under that. We're like around the 500 mark. So we're always trying to catch up. I don't think we will, but we're trying. We're working really, really hard. But I think that's where, you guys, and you have like 100 breweries like close by and everything. Like you're gonna
Oh
have
yeah.
that variety. And so I don't like, if someone had to like come and be like, I don't just want to go to Weyerbacher, where are other places that they can get? I'm going to go in a couple different routes, so bear with me. So they can get also good beer, but also good food that is known in the Philly area. Where can we send them if they come? They're like, I'm gonna come to Weyerbacher because obviously they're coming to Weyerbacher. But then where else, Blake, would you send people to get more good beverages and food in that area?
Yeah, again, we're lucky to have so many options super close to us and in the broader Lehigh Valley. But it's cool because a lot of there are a number of the the breweries and brew pubs that operate and have a ton of amazing food options. Even right in Easton, Two Rivers Brewing Company is right in downtown Easton, and they've been around for a little while also, and they have some amazing top-notch beer and great food to pair with it, and they focus on that as part of their business model. So, burgers, sandwiches, some amazing different, I believe, duck fat French fries. So all kinds of cool options down there. They typically have a weekly burger special, um, burger and beer pairing. So that's a great spot as you head across the Lehigh Valley. McCall Collective Brewing Company is in Allentown. They're another great, again, top-notch beer. They've also recently produced a non-alcoholic beer, which is super drinkable, tasty, just kind of opening up our landscape to this option. Brew Daddy's Brewing Company is in Allentown also. They have a great kitchen, some excellent pizzas on their menu. And the cool part too is a lot, there are some of the breweries that have multiple, like a tap house or a second location, or some a third location too. So again, with a couple, dozen options, and most of them with on-site food in one regard or another. Those are just a couple quick picks from some of the places I've been over the last 6 months to a year that I just know I can go and get quality brews as well as food to back it up. So
Nice. No, that definitely gives us options, because I know all of our viewers and listeners, they're always like, we have to make a road trip, but we don't just want to go to like one place. You want options, you want
oh yeah,
food, you want beverages. And because every state's a little bit different. Like here in New York, like not all the breweries have food. I know in Jersey, it's none of the breweries have food.
Very few. Very few of
Yeah.
them.
yeah.
And so it's a kind of flip-flop. So the fact that a lot of the breweries do have food options, I think that is always a selling point. Um,
Yeah, it's
and
really
it,
cool because the food truck industry is huge as well, and in some ways, bred out of craft breweries and places that have been beckoning for food that maybe didn't have it. So, for us in our area as well, if there's not an on-site kitchen, you better believe there's probably a food truck or some type of pop-up food
yeah.
at most of the breweries around here that you're going to get something quality no matter where you go. And you know, you could definitely spend a good week or more hopping around just the Lehigh Valley, but the broader reach beyond that, there's so much to be said just for Pennsylvania as a whole.
And I think that is our point of saying we will all come to Pennsylvania. We will all come to Weyerbacher. We will drink all the high ABV and low ABV beer. And just you sold me on duck fat fries. Like I'm sold on that. Sounds fantastic. Before we go, because I do want to be respectful of anyone that's listening. They're like, they've been talking for over an hour. Are they done yet? Listen, our listeners, we're almost done. We're almost there. But Darren, do you have any questions, comments, anything that you want to add? Anything that you're like, Jonathan's been talking too much, Blake's been talking too much. I really want to ask this one question.
Yeah, we need
Uh,
some Darren.
we need some
Well,
Darren.
yeah, well, just a comment that I like you we sort of alluded to. I always like thought of as Weyerbacher as like higher ABV, like the barley wines, and that's always what I went to for that. And then you have to split it with a friend because it's like 11%. But if
Yeah.
it's any indication, I like chugged that whole thing. It was fantastic, and that's not exact. It's we've talked a little bit about variety in brew houses or in tasting rooms, and this is perfect because this is a really drinkable, crushable, as no one's saying anymore.
No one's saying that anymore.
Beer. It was delicious. It was really good. Had a lot of flavor, but was nice and light and drinkable. So just my 2 cents on what you guys are doing. Like I said, it kind of opens up my mind to a little bit different view on what you guys are doing out there.
Yeah, and for anyone that is in one of the other states that I know you guys are like distributing, do you guys also ship or do you guys only work with local distributors like in Georgia or other places?
Yeah, for us, it's pretty much if you live somewhere else and you want our beer outside of our distribution footprint, you can come and get it. We don't ship it outside of the brewery otherwise. But like I said, we're trying to open up that footprint a bit further as we go here. And it's cool. I mean, some of the places that are, folks from Pennsylvania also, people may move or retire to somewhere in another state and they still come back and look for our beer, and people stop through on road trips from different places and make a pit stop, for grabbing a beer or grabbing a Weyerbacher. So it's always cool to see those folks coming in too. Um, but yeah, like I said, road trip for sure. We welcome you guys. I'd love to show you around the brewery and have a flight with you and give you a couple of the other small batch offerings that are seasonally happening as we go too.
Well, you already have one fan, not just myself. Well, so three, not just me and Derrin, but you also have RJ's he's
Yeah,
going up for a Penn State game, so he's gonna swing by.
that's
He's gonna
awesome.
have a beer. You're gonna give him the brewer's recommendation, and then you guys are gonna have a good time together.
Sounds good.
Which I think that's just the way that it should be. But I think we've exhausted all of our Pennsylvania Weyerbacher beer, all of our information. So I think this is the perfect time. We are going to say farewell for all of our listeners and viewers. And if you're just finding this podcast or live stream, um, come back next month. We're going to have another good box. We're going to just keep the beer coming. We're just going to keep finding better beer from places that may not get out into other places. So you're going to find just like Weyerbacher, they're only in 8 states. You're outside of those 8 states, we're getting it to you guys. Um, Go to shop at citybrewtours.com. We're gonna get you guys more beer. Blake, thank you so much. I know you're really not that far. Philadelphia is not that far from New York. I will have to make a stop over. Gonna get you more beer. I'm gonna probably enjoy the Merry Monks tomorrow at the bar. So there's that. Derrin, thank you so much. And obviously we're
Yeah.
like stone's throw away. But everyone, keep drinking local, keep enjoying the beers, and we're gonna see everybody next month. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Great.
Thanks,
Thanks.
guys. Cheers.